Hello and welcome to the 24/7 video blog. I'm Svetlana, Managing Director of 24/7, an anti-trafficking human rights organization. In this video, we are going to discuss the prostitutes who now may be referred to as sex workers. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share or make a donation. What is a prostitute and what is the differences between a prostitute and a sex worker? According to John Exner, an American psychologist, sex workers fall into 5 distinct classes of categorization. Dr. Exner details the classes into following groups: Class 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Class 1 is known as the upper class. This group consists of call girls. Class 2 was referred to as a middle class, consisting of in-house girls who typically work in an establishment on a commission basis. Class 3, the lower middle class, were essentially streetwalkers or window girls whose fees and place of work fluctuate considerably. Class 4 are known as the commuter housewives, and they're typically involved in a sex work to supplement family income. Finally, Class 5 consists of streetwalker addicts or drugs for sex streetwalkers who are considered the lower class of the profession. Throughout the world, the term sex worker is becoming more accepted instead of a prostitute. Presumably, the use of the term sex worker is utilized to avoid invoking the centuries-old stigma associated with the word prostitute. Now, what is a prostitute, and is there a difference between prostitute and a sex worker? According to Merriam-Webster, the word prostitute first originated in 1500s and is defined as a person who engages in a sexual intercourse for the exchange of a pay. In our politically correct society, many people have adopted the term sex worker instead. The definition of a sex worker, according to Merriam-Webster, is a person whose work involves sexually explicit behavior, especially prostitution. I would like to clarify, based upon that definition, a sex worker may not be a prostitute, as the term sex worker may be applied to anyone in the sex industry. Some say prostitution is a form of skilled labor, and utilizing its sex work label have tried to normalize it. Recently, New Zealand added a sex worker to the list of employment skills for those wishing to migrate. According to information on Immigration NZ website, prostitution appears on the skilled employment list, but not the skill shortage list. It is sad and disturbing there is not a shortage of prostitutes in New Zealand, and I think it's reasonable to assume there is not a shortage of prostitutes anywhere. Some places, however, do not view it as a skilled labor position and do their best to eradicate prostitution or sex work from polite society. For this video, we will concentrate on the word prostitute. Based upon the definition shared earlier, I wonder, does that mean a trafficked woman cannot truly be a prostitute? A study done by the Whisper organization found 90% of the prostitutes in America were pimped or trafficked. If we consider a trafficked woman is forced and generally the John is not actually paying her, the John is actually paying the trafficker for the services, and she is the medium to collect the money. Considering she's forced, she isn't having sex for the money. She's having sex because she's a commodity, an object to be sold. She might do the act, but she did not do the selling. Therefore, a trafficked woman cannot truly be a prostitute in the strictest sense of the word. Ask yourself if 90% of so-called prostitutes in the United States are not really prostitutes. What is a prostitute? Well, I watched a show the other day called Marrying Millions. Although some of those girls who are dating millionaires might be genuine, I saw many of them as fake and were obviously prostituting themselves for the money. Remember, a prostitute is a person who engages in a sexual intercourse for the exchange of pay. That doesn't mean the girl always gets cash. If we examine St. Paul's writings from 2 Corinthians, he warns about sexual immorality, but does not specifically condemn sex outside of marriage. What is sexual immorality? Is prostitution immoral? It is condemned by many religions and societies. Perhaps prostitution, when a woman is not forced, may be immoral. But what if it is society that forces her and not necessarily a pimp? I recently read an article about disturbing practice which is occurring throughout the Muslim world, specifically in the war-torn regions of Iraq and Syria. The Sharia Muslim culture, which openly condemns prostitution, has created something called pleasure marriages. How it works is a cleric performs a temporary marriage for a man with a woman of his choice. Sometimes the girls are young as 12. The marriage may last an hour, an afternoon, a day, or even a week. But each pleasure marriage does have an expiration date. The girl is paid a dowry, and the cleric is paid a fee. Because she is married, their society does not consider this prostitution. I guess I don't either. I would consider this trafficking under the cloak of religion. A pleasure marriage is certainly a form of prostitution, and prostitution is really a polite word for trafficking, and sex work is just a polite word for prostitution. Long story short, the term sex work has redefined the society view of people who engage in a sexual behavior for money, allowing us to believe this behavior is acceptable and without stigma. The term sex worker has perhaps sanitized the horrors as trafficked women endured by being forced in and engaged in prostitution. I want to say again, I define the word prostitute as synonymous with trafficking. The term sex worker to define a prostitute might not be beneficial, helping us to expose sex trafficking and how prostitutes restores their life.